When my sister and I were young, we were practically inseparable. We would do everything together, but our favorite thing to do was draw. We would draw everything, and we would always make up stories and try to critique each other, fantasizing that we would one day be famous artists. And while back then we were very close, nowadays we are not at all. And I think the thing that drove us apart is the one thing that made us very different, and that is that she has autism and I don't. I chose to study the topic of autism awareness, but more specifically, bullying. Not only because it has such relevance in my life, but because it's relevant in the world today. Right now, 1 in 110 children are born with autism in the United States alone. And on top of this, children with special needs are bullied at a much higher rate than those without. Right off the top of my head, I know my sister was bullied a lot throughout her school career. I can remember this one time when I came home from middle school to see my mom crying in our bedroom, and when I asked what was wrong, she told me that some girl on the bus who was sitting with Katie told her that she didn't want to be friends with her because she thought she was really weird. And Katie ran crying all the way home. No matter what, bullying is never truly going to stop. People are mean, we know this. I don't need to explain it to you, we've all been there. However, we can have a say and take action when it happens in front of us or to someone we know. We have a responsibility to our fellow man to defend them from those that would seek to do them harm. Now, there are many organizations out there already, like Autism Speaks and the Autism Society of America, that already devote everything they are and everything they have to the advancement of the autistic community. There are special schools that are set up, there are fundraisers thrown, and counseling groups and marathons, and there are scientists who devote all of their research to finding the cure and finding the best treatment for these kinds of people. And just everyone is trying to find a way to cure autism. But the thing is that, well, we barely know where to look. As far as research goes, we barely even know what's causing it. We don't know if it's genetic or environmental or something to do with brain development or a personality disorder. Not only that, but autism is not a very easy thing to track. How do I put this? Every autistic kid is different. Like, when I have gone to see the autistic kids in my sister's friendship group, they are all completely different. My sister is high functioning, which means that she has symptoms of autism, but she can still communicate and she can still have intelligent thought. Whereas other people who are considered autistic commonly cannot speak or cannot communicate what they are feeling. And so this makes it very difficult to find a common ground between all of them. And it also makes it near impossible to find one cure or one treatment that will work on all autistic kids. Now, in order to get a better idea of how people with autism are affected by it, I did two things. The first thing I did was I interviewed someone with autism, and who better than the person I grew up with, my sister. I tried to understand autism from her point of view. You see, she doesn't fully understand what autism really is herself, even though she's lived with it for 20 years. Believe me, many a time she thinks she knows what it is. We can't really get her to shut up about it sometimes, that's just part of autism. But whether she knows what it is or not, it does affect her. The questions I asked had to be simple. If I made things too complicated or phrased a question to her the wrong way, I might run the risk of her throwing a temper tantrum, which is common with autistic kids. Some of you might find temper tantrums amusing. Trust me, it's not. And so I mostly asked her about what autism meant to her and how it affected her life. I was both surprised and strangely not surprised when many of the answers to my questions reflected on how lonely she felt, how friendless she was. One of my questions, she commented on how glad she was that our younger brother Joey was the only one who was really ever nice to her. I felt kind of bad, because that meant she didn't really view me as being kind to her, but at the same time, I couldn't really deny it. As for the second thing I did, I was given the opportunity by my good friend, Dr. Emilio Amigo, to take part in a party that was thrown by a group of autistic kids that wanted to have their own prom. In addition to being able to observe them attempting to act in a social situation, the party also included some neurotypical or normal teens, partying with them. And watching everyone interacting together, I was surprised at how easy it was to pick out those with autism from the crowd of mixed people, where as normal teens like myself would be interacting and dancing together, there were many who would just sit off by themselves, stuck in their own little worlds. Of those that attempted normal interaction, there was a serious lack of communication skills. Of the few that I talked to or attempted to talk to, one girl had a very serious stutter, and one boy would only talk about Transformers. And while the boy seemed to be very introverted, the girl was at least attempting to be extroverted and successful in being able to maintain a cohesive conversation. The severity of autism that these teens demonstrated was all across the spectrum. Some seemed very severe and barely able to communicate at all, and others were like the girl I encountered before, in that they were very close to being neurotypical. However, throughout all of my research, one thing that kept cropping up was the idea of autism in the school setting. So going back to what I originally said this was going to be about, autism and bullying. Like I said, bullying happens. We all know this. But I don't need to explain this. But what does need to be explained is that bullying happens to autistic kids at a much higher rate than does a neurotypical kid. This is sad, but natural, considering that as people, for some reason, we just get a kick out of pushing away anyone who we think is not like us. So, this got me thinking. My father once told me that in order for different kinds of people to get along, they need to be able to interact with each other in a positive manner. You remember that god-awful discrimination video that we had to watch earlier this year? Well, that video failed because it handled discrimination and bullying in the wrong way. It was accusatory, It was long and it was boring, and it was a punishment to the kids who had done nothing wrong in the first place. It's very easy for people to make fun of others from a long distance. One kid calling an autistic kid retarded is so easy because they never interact with each other. They will never be forced to be in a situation where the normal kid will have to look in the autistic kid's eye and call him stupid or weird. So, what good is all this information or these ideas? What am I trying to do? Well, in short, my goal is to change the outlook of the students in this school. Not just the normal kids, and not just the special needs kids, but everyone. The way to stop bullying, or to stop anything really, is to attack it at the source. And the source here is the attitude of the kids themselves. In the beginning, I thought that this project was only going to reach a few people, but that's not good enough. If I want to help these kids, the autistic kids, or no, not even just the autistic kids, all the special needs kids, it has to be bigger than that. So, what's the plan? Now, I've already spent time and talked with Mrs. D'Amato, who is the head of, the group of special needs kids at our school. And she told me that what these kids really need is proper social interaction with normal kids. But it's not just that. Like, it can't be a one-time thing. Like, it can't just maybe once a month I throw a meeting where the special needs kids and the normal kids get together and interact for an hour or so and then go home and forget about it. It needs to be an ongoing thing. So, she and I had the idea that perhaps next year during study halls, kids can sign up to go down to the lunchroom where the special needs kids are and sit with them, interact with them, even, say, pull them away from the special needs table to sit with the normal kids' other normal friends. By doing this, not only can we give these kids proper socialization, but we can give the normal kids a new understanding about how kids like them really aren't much different than us. It could reduce bullying and encourage people to make friends outside of their personal bubble. It may even improve the special needs kids' general demeanor and outlook on life. Kids with more friends are generally happier, do better in school, and are more successful. Now, I'm not stupid. I know that there are many kids who won't be too eager to give up a class period, even a study hall, to go sit with someone whom they perceive as odd. The fact that they would be able to have an extra lunch and have extra time with their friends will motivate some, but I think if this were implemented, I could go a bit further and make this worth service hours as well. Kids are lazy enough already, and this would make it easier for kids to get involved if one of the things they could volunteer for was right in the school and offered the benefits of extra food and extra time with friends. And if the special needs kids showed any sign of having problems, Mrs. D'Amato would be right there in the lunchroom with them, so the normal kids could go and report to her if things were going awry. Now, I've already talked to Mr. DeMassimo, our assistant principal, and he said that he loved my idea and would like to go forward with it. And now, my task is to get people involved. I'm a senior, so I'm going to be leaving soon. And I need to find at least 3 incoming seniors who would be willing to lead this idea and get people involved next year. It may not even have to be seniors, just kids willing to take a stand and make a difference, and encourage others to do so as well. So, do you know of anyone?